The message arrived at dawn, cutting through the silence of Doyen's quarters like a blade. He sat at his desk watching the holographic display flicker to life with the official seal of the Galactic Council. The symbol rotated slowly, all sharp angles and cold light, before the text appeared. Envoy Doyen of Earth, you are hereby summoned to appear before the High Tribunal of the Galactic Council. Charges violation of Expansion Protocol 7, Section 12. Unauthorized colonization of restricted territory. Your presence is mandatory within 10 standard cycles. Doyen read it 3 times. His jaw tightened with each pass. 73 years. That was how long humanity had been part of this so-called peaceful alliance. 73 years of bowing, scraping, and accepting whatever scraps the Council deemed appropriate for the newcomers from Earth. He stood and walked to the window. Outside, the diplomatic station hung in orbit around Centris Prime, the Council's capital world. Hundreds of ships drifted past, representing species from across the galaxy. Some had been part of the Council for thousands of years. Others, like humanity, were still considered children in the grand scheme of things. The door chimed. Doyen turned as Captain Hana entered, her uniform crisp despite the early hour. She carried a datapad and wore the expression of someone bearing bad news. You've seen it, she said. It wasn't a question. Just now. Doyen gestured to the hologram. What do you know about this? Hana set the datapad on his desk. I've been digging since the summons came through. The colony they're talking about is New Haven, Outer Rim territory. Our survey teams checked every database before the colonists even left Earth. The world was listed as unclaimed. No territorial markers, no prior settlements, nothing. And now they're saying it violated some ancient boundary that was never properly recorded. Hana's voice carried an edge of anger. It's a setup, sir. They're looking for an excuse. Doyen picked up the datapad and scrolled through the information. Reports, star charts, legal documents. Everything supported what Hana said. New Haven had been settled legally according to every rule humanity had been given. The colonists had done nothing wrong. How many people are on New Haven? He asked. 12,000. Families mostly. They've been there for 8 months. Built homes, started farms. It's a good world. Doyen set the pad down carefully. They want us to abandon it. That's my guess. Make an example out of us. Show the other junior species what happens when you get too ambitious. The door chimed again. This time, Ambassador Jiho entered. The older man looked tired, his face lined with years of diplomatic service. He had been part of Earth's first contact team decades ago, and had devoted his life to building humanity's relationship with the Council. Doyen, Jiho said quietly, we need to talk about your response. My response is simple. We did nothing wrong. Jiho sighed and sat down without being invited. That doesn't matter. The Council has made its decision. Fighting this will only make things worse. Worse than forcing 12,000 people to leave their homes. Doyen's voice remained level, but heat crept into his words. Worse than being treated like criminals for following their own rules? Worse than sanctions, Jiho replied. Worse than military action. Worse than Earth being isolated from galactic trade and technology. He leaned forward. I know this is unfair. I've fought against this kind of treatment for years. But we have to be smart about this, Hana spoke up. Ambassador, with respect, we've been smart for 73 years. Where has it gotten us? Jiho turned to her. It's kept us alive, Captain. Do you know how many species tried to resist Council authority in the past? Most of them don't exist anymore. Most of them weren't human, Hana said. The room fell silent. Doyen walked back to the window, his hands clasped behind his back. He thought about Earth, about the billions of people who looked to their leaders for protection and guidance, about the colonists on New Haven who had left everything behind for a chance at a new life. He thought about every slight, every condescending remark, every rule that seemed designed specifically to keep humanity in its place. The restrictions on military development, the quotas on resource extraction, the way Council members dismissed human concerns as if they were complaints from children who didn't understand how the adult world worked. Prepare the ship, Doyen said finally. We leave for Centris Prime in 6 hours. Jiho stood. You'll accept their terms? Doyen turned to face him. I'll attend the tribunal. I'll hear what they have to say. But I won't accept terms based on lies. Doyen, please. I'm not asking for your permission, Jiho. You can come with me or you can stay here. Either way, I'm going to face the Council. The ambassador's shoulders sagged. For a moment, he looked every one of his 70 years. You're going to start a war. No, Doyen said quietly. They started this war the day they decided humanity wasn't worth treating with respect. I'm just refusing to surrender before the first shot is fired. After Jiho left, Hana remained. She studied Doyen with careful eyes. Do you have a plan, sir? I have the truth. Sometimes that has to be enough. The truth doesn't stop warships. Doyen smiled, though there was no humor in it. No, but it can stop people from wanting to crew them. He picked up the data pad again. You said you've been digging. What else did you find? Hana's expression shifted, becoming almost satisfied. Interesting things. Over the past 20 years, I found 37 cases of council species violating the same expansion protocols. Most were never even investigated. The ones that were got fines that were later forgiven. No forced evacuations, no tribunals. Only for humans. Only for humans, she confirmed. Doyen nodded slowly. Make me a full report. Every case, every detail. I want documentation of every double standard, every hypocritical decision, every time they've enforced rules against us that they ignore for themselves. Planning to make it public? Planning to make them very uncomfortable. Doyen moved to his desk and began composing a message. The Council has operated on the assumption that junior species will always back down. That fear of their power will keep everyone in line. Maybe it's time we showed them that fear has limits. Hana watched him work for a moment. Sir, what if this doesn't work? What if they come after Earth directly? Doyen paused, his fingers hovering over the keyboard. It was the question he'd been avoiding since the summons arrived. The one that had kept him awake for the past few hours. Then we make them regret it, he said finally. Humanity didn't crawl out of caves and reach for the stars just to spend eternity bowing to species that see us as inferior. If the Council wants a fight, they'll get one. But they'll learn something important first. What's that? Doyen's eyes hardened. Humans don't bow. Not anymore. 6 hours later, the frigate Indomitable detached from the diplomatic station and began its journey to Centris Prime. In his quarters, Doyen sat alone, reviewing Hana's report. Page after page of evidence, proof of corruption, favoritism, and abuse of power. He thought about what lay ahead. The tribunal would be hostile. The charges were designed to humiliate. The Council expected him to plead for mercy, to offer concessions, to accept whatever punishment they deemed fit. They were going to be very disappointed. Outside his window, the stars stretched endlessly in all directions. Somewhere out there, 12,000 humans waited to learn their fate. Billions more on Earth watched and worried. And beyond them, countless other species who had suffered under the Council's rule. Doyen closed the report and stood. In 10 days, he would stand before the most powerful beings in the galaxy. He would speak truth to power, and after that, nothing would ever be the same. The Grand Tribunal Hall was designed to make people feel small. Doyen understood this the moment he entered. The ceiling stretched up into darkness so high that the light from below never quite reached it. The walls curved inward, creating the impression of being at the bottom of a vast well. At the far end, elevated on a platform that required looking up at an uncomfortable angle, sat the members of the High Tribunal. Doyen walked alone down the center aisle. His footsteps echoed in the massive space. Behind him, in the observation gallery, Hana sat among a small group of human diplomatic staff. He could feel her watching, tense and ready, despite knowing she could do nothing from there. The podium where he was meant to stand sat in a circle of harsh light. Everything else fell into shadow. Another intimidation tactic. Make the accused feel exposed while the judges remained distant and untouchable. He reached the podium and stood straight, hands at his sides. His gaze moved across the tribunal members. 15 beings from 15 different species, each representing millions of years of galactic civilization. At the center sat High Arbiter Velrax, an insectoid creature whose chitinous body reflected the light in strange patterns. His multiple eyes studied Doyen with the kind of attention a scientist might give an interesting specimen. Envoy Doyen of Earth. Velrax's voice came through a translator, flat and emotionless. You stand accused of violating Expansion Protocol 7, Section 12. How do you answer these charges? Not guilty, Doyen said clearly. A ripple of movement passed through the tribunal. Some members leaned toward each other, mandibles and lips moving in quiet conversation. Velrax remained still. The evidence will show otherwise, the arbiter said. Counselor Thrain, present the case. Another being rose from the tribunal, this one vaguely reptilian with scales that shifted between blue and green. Thrain activated a holographic display that filled the space above Doyen's head. Images appeared showing a blue and green world from orbit, New Haven. 8 months ago, Thrain began, human colonists established an unauthorized settlement on this world. The planet exists within the protected zone of the Velrathi Empire, designated as restricted territory under the Treaty of Centris, signed 400 years ago. The display shifted to show star charts with boundary lines drawn in glowing colors. New Haven sat just inside a red zone labeled as Velrathi territory. The humans were informed of these boundaries upon joining the council, Thrain continued. They agreed to respect all existing territorial claims. This settlement represents a clear violation of that agreement. Doyen watched the display calmly. He had expected this approach. When Thrain finished speaking, Velrax turned his many eyes toward the human. Do you contest these facts, Envoy? I do, Doyen replied. He pulled out his own data device and transmitted information to the tribunal systems. New images appeared, overlaying Thrain's charts. These are the territorial maps provided to Earth when we joined the Council. As you can see, New Haven is clearly marked as unclaimed space. No Velrathi borders appear anywhere near this sector. Thrain's scales darkened. Those maps are outdated. They were current as of our settlement mission. We checked 3 separate databases. All confirmed the world was available for colonization. Doyen's voice remained steady. Our colonists followed every protocol. They performed long-range scans for markers or beacons. They searched for signs of previous habitation. They found nothing because there was nothing to find. The interpretation of territorial boundaries is complex, Velrax said. Ancient treaties often contain provisions that junior members may not fully understand. Then perhaps the Council should provide accurate information instead of punishing species for following the rules they were given. Silence fell over the hall. Several tribunal members shifted uncomfortably. Doyen had just implied incompetence or dishonesty on the part of the Council. Such directness was not common in this chamber. Velrax's mandibles clicked together. You will show proper respect, Envoy. I show respect to those who earn it, Doyen replied. This tribunal has accused humanity of crimes we did not commit, based on information we were never provided. Where is the respect in that? More movement from the tribunal. Counselor Thessa, a mammalian being with soft fur and gentle eyes, leaned forward. Her voice was quieter than the others when she spoke. The envoy raises a point worth considering. Perhaps there was confusion in the record-keeping. There was no confusion, Thrain snapped. The boundaries have been clear for centuries. Then why do they not appear in any of the databases Earth was given access to? Doyen asked. He transmitted more information. I have documentation here showing 17 other worlds that were marked as Velrathi territory in Council records, but shown as unclaimed in the databases provided to junior members. This appears to be a systematic discrepancy, not an isolated error. Velrax studied the new information. His expression, difficult to read on such an alien face, seemed to harden. Where did you obtain these records? From Council databases. They are public information, available to any member species willing to look carefully enough. This evidence is irrelevant, Velrax declared. The fact remains that humans settled on restricted territory. Intent does not excuse the violation. Doyen had expected this too. They would dismiss the evidence, claim it didn't matter, and push forward with their predetermined judgment. He had prepared for this moment during the entire journey to Centris Prime. May I ask a question? He said. Velrax made a gesture that seemed to indicate permission. How many other species have been brought before this tribunal for similar violations in the past 50 years? That information is not relevant to your case. I believe it is. I have conducted research, Doyen transmitted another file. In the past 50 years, 37 separate incidents involved member species settling worlds that were claimed by others. Of those 37, how many resulted in forced evacuations? No one answered. Doyen continued. The answer is 1. This case. Every other violation received a fine or a warning. Some were dismissed entirely after review, but humans are ordered to evacuate 12,000 colonists and pay reparations. He paused. Why are we treated differently? Each case is judged on its own merits, Velrax said, but his voice had taken on a defensive tone. Is it? Or are some species more equal than others in the eyes of this council? You overstep, Envoy, Thrain hissed. Doyen turned his attention to the full tribunal. I came here believing this was about following rules. But the evidence shows that rules are enforced selectively. Humanity is held to standards that don't apply to older, more established species. We are punished for confusion created by the Council's own poor record-keeping, and when we point this out, we are told to show respect. He took a breath. The next words would determine everything. I have spent years as Earth's representative trying to work within this system. I believed that patience and cooperation would eventually earn humanity the respect we deserved. But I was wrong. This tribunal has no interest in justice. It exists to maintain the power structure that keeps newer species in their place. That is enough. Velrax stood, his voice rising. You are dangerously close to contempt charges. I am stating facts. Facts that every junior member of this council already knows but is too afraid to say out loud. Doyen's voice carried through the hall. You demand respect while showing none. You enforce laws selectively. You create impossible situations and then punish species for failing to navigate them perfectly. Counselor Thessa spoke again, her voice troubled. Envoy Doyen, I understand your frustration, but these accusations are based on evidence I have provided. Evidence this tribunal refuses to acknowledge because it reveals uncomfortable truths. He looked at each member of the tribunal in turn. The question before this body is not whether humanity broke a rule. The question is whether the council serves justice or merely preserves the privileges of its founding members. Velrax's entire body seemed to vibrate with anger. This tribunal will now vote on sentencing. The charges are clear. Earth will evacuate all colonies in disputed territories, pay reparations of 50 million credits, and submit to permanent monitoring stations in human space to prevent future violations. No, Doyen said quietly. The word hung in the air like a physical presence. Velrax's eyes fixed on the human. What did you say? Doyen straightened. This was the moment. Everything he had worked toward. Everything he had risked bringing humanity to this point. No going back now, I said no. Earth will not evacuate New Haven. We will not pay reparations for following your rules, and we will certainly not allow monitoring stations in our territory. His voice grew stronger, and furthermore, Earth is withdrawing its membership from the Galactic Council effective immediately. The hall erupted. Tribunal members stood, voices overlapping in multiple languages and translating into a chaos of sound. In the observation gallery, Hana was already moving toward the exit, ready to secure their route out. Velrax slammed something against his desk, creating a sound like thunder. You cannot withdraw. No species has ever... Then humanity will be the first, Doyen interrupted. We came to the stars seeking friendship and partnership. What we found was another empire. Different in form, but identical in function to every other power structure that has tried to keep humans in chains. The news reached Earth before Doyen's ship did. By the time the Indomitable entered the Sol system, every screen on the planet was showing footage of the tribunal. Someone had leaked the recording. Doyen suspected it was Counselor Thessa, though he would never know for certain. The video showed everything. His accusations, his evidence, and most importantly, his final declaration. Earth will no longer bow to the Council. Those words spread across human space like wildfire. Hana stood on the bridge monitoring communications. Sir, we're being hailed by about 100 different sources. Earth Command, the United Nations, several colony administrators, and at least 20 news organizations. Accept the Earth Command signal, Doyen said. Director Minho's face appeared on the screen. The man looked like he hadn't slept in days. His gray hair stood at odd angles and his uniform collar was loosened. Behind him, Doyen could see the chaos of the Planetary Defense Headquarters in Geneva. Envoy Doyen, Minho said carefully. We need to talk about what happens next. I'm on my way to Earth now. We should be there in 6 hours. 6 hours might be too long. The Council has issued a statement. They're calling your actions an act of rebellion and demanding that Earth hand you over for prosecution. They've given us 30 days to comply or face consequences. Doyen had expected something like this. What kind of consequences? They weren't specific. Sanctions, blockades, possibly military action. Minho leaned closer to the camera. Doyen, what you did took courage. But it might have also started a war. The war was already happening, Director. We just weren't allowed to fight back. Minho was quiet for a moment. Then he nodded. Get to Earth safely. We have a lot to discuss. The connection ended. Hana turned from her station. He's right, you know. The council won't let this go. I know, Doyen said, but I'm betting they'll hesitate. We're not the first species to make them angry, but we're the first to walk away. They'll need time to figure out how to respond. And what do we do with that time? Doyen smiled grimly. We prepare. When the Indomitable landed at Geneva, Doyen was met by a security escort. They weren't there to arrest him. They were there to keep him safe from the crowds. Thousands of people had gathered outside the headquarters building. Some carried signs supporting his actions. Others demanded he be handed over to the council. Everyone wanted to be heard. Inside the building, the atmosphere was tense. Staff members moved quickly through corridors, carrying data pads and speaking in urgent whispers. Doyen was taken directly to a secure conference room deep underground. Director Minho waited there along with several other key figures in Earth's government and military. Dr. Yunji stood near a wall screen displaying complex technical diagrams. She was younger than most people in the room, barely in her 30s, but her reputation as Earth's leading scientist gave her authority that transcended age. She nodded to Doyen as he entered. Ambassador Jiho sat in the corner, arms crossed. He had arrived on an earlier transport and looked even more tired than Minho. When he saw Doyen, his expression was difficult to read. Anger, resignation, perhaps a hint of grudging respect. Thank you for coming, Minho began once everyone was seated. We have decisions to make and we need to make them quickly. The council's ultimatum gives us 30 days. That's not much time. Time for what? Asked General Borum, the head of Earth's military forces. She was a stern woman with close-cropped hair and eyes that had seen too much combat. Time to decide if we're really doing this, Minho replied. He looked at Doyen. You've forced our hand, Envoy. Now we need to know if we can survive what comes next. Doyen stood and walked to the wall screen. May I? Yunji handed him a control device. He pulled up the files he had prepared during the journey home. Chart statistics, analysis of council military capabilities. The council has power, he began. Their combined fleets number in the thousands. Their technology is advanced. But they have weaknesses. The first is political. The council is not unified. Junior members resent their treatment. Even some senior species have growing concerns about corruption and abuse of power. What we did at the tribunal will resonate with many of them. He changed the display to show communication intercepts. Since I left Centris Prime, we've detected increased chatter among junior member species. 3 have formally requested private meetings with Earth representatives. Others are watching to see what happens to us. That's politics, General Borum said. What about the military reality? If the council decides to attack, can we stop them? Doyen turned to Minho. Director, I think it's time. Minho looked around the room, then nodded. Dr. Yunji, show them what we've been working on. The scientist stood and took control of the display. New images appeared, showing spacecraft designs that looked nothing like standard Earth vessels, sleek, angular, with strange geometric patterns along their hulls. For the past 8 years, Yunji said, we've been running a classified program. We called it the Human Innovation Initiative. The goal was to develop technology that would allow Earth to defend itself without council assistance. She pulled up more images, weapons, shields, propulsion systems. We reverse-engineered alien technology recovered from crashed ships and derelict stations. Then we improved on it. Human creativity combined with alien principles has produced some interesting results. How interesting? Borum asked. We've built a faster-than-light drive that exceeds anything the Council possesses. We've developed energy shields that can withstand sustained bombardment, and we've designed weapons that are both more efficient and more deadly than standard galactic armaments. Yunji's expression was neutral, scientific. We also built ships to mount these systems on. Doyen watched the room react. Some faces showed surprise. Others showed something like hope. Ambassador Jiho just looked sad. How many ships? Borum pressed. 47 combat vessels of various classes hidden throughout the Sol system and nearby colonies. Another 23 under construction. They're not enough to fight the entire council, but they're enough to make attacking Earth very costly. Minho took over. We also began fortifying the Sol system 2 years ago. Defensive satellites, hidden weapons platforms, early warning networks. If the council comes, we'll see them coming and we'll make them bleed for every meter they advance. General Borum leaned back in her chair. Why wasn't the military informed about this? Because the military falls under council oversight requirements, Minho replied. Any major weapons development has to be reported. So we kept the program separate, hidden inside research and exploration budgets. Only a handful of people knew the full scope. And now you're telling us because we might need to use it, Borum concluded. Yes. The room fell silent. Everyone was processing the implications. Earth had secretly built a fleet and armed itself in violation of council regulations. If they backed down now, handed over Doyon, and returned to council membership, these violations would be discovered. There would be severe consequences. If they stood firm, war was likely. Ambassador Jiho finally spoke. You planned this. Both of you. He looked at Doyon and Minho. You knew this moment would come. We hoped it wouldn't, Minho said, but we prepared for it. You've gambled with billions of lives. The council was always going to push until we broke or fought back, Doyon said quietly. Better to choose the moment than wait for them to choose it for us. Jiho stood and walked to the window, even though there was nothing to see from this underground room. I spent my life building bridges between Earth and the council. I believed we could find a place in galactic civilization through patience and diplomacy. Now I see it was always going to end this way. It doesn't have to end in war, Dr. Yunji said. If we're strong enough, they might choose to negotiate rather than fight. Or they'll see our strength as a threat and crush us before we get stronger, Jiho countered. Then we make sure they can't crush us, General Borum said. She stood and moved to the display, studying the ship designs. These vessels, can they be deployed immediately? Most of them, yes, Yunji confirmed. Good. I want full briefings on capabilities and deployment options. If we're doing this, we do it right, she looked at Minho. What about the political side? The United Nations hasn't officially endorsed this course of action. They will, Minho said. We're calling an emergency session tomorrow. Doyon will address the General Assembly and present his case. The member states will vote on whether to support withdrawal from the Council. And if they vote no, then I'll resign and face the consequences alone, Doyon said. But I don't think they'll vote no. The colonies are already celebrating. Public opinion is running in favor of independence. The only question is whether Earth's leadership has the courage to follow where the people are already going. The meeting continued for hours. Plans were made, contingencies discussed, resources allocated. By the time Doyon finally left the underground conference room, dawn was breaking over Geneva. Hana was waiting outside. She had spent the time coordinating with Planetary Defense, ensuring the Indomitable and its crew were ready for whatever came next. How did it go? She asked. We're committed now, Doyon replied. No turning back. They walked together through the building toward the exit. Outside, they could hear the crowd still gathered, their voices a constant background noise. Do you think we can win? Hana asked. The attack on New Haven came on the 19th day. Doyon was in a strategy meeting when the alert came through. Commander Tajin's voice crackled across the communication system, tense but controlled. This is New Haven Defense. We have incoming ships, 6 vessels, frigate class. They're broadcasting council authorization codes and demanding our immediate surrender. Admiral Hana, who had been promoted and given command of Earth's new defense fleet, moved quickly to the tactical display. Tajin, what's your situation? We have approximately 400 militia members with light arms. The colony has basic shields, but nothing that will stop a sustained bombardment. Civilian population is moving to shelters now. Doyon stepped up beside Hana. How long until our ships can reach them? 3 hours at maximum speed, she replied. Too long if those frigates decide to attack immediately. Tajin's voice came through again. They're hailing us, putting it on speakers. A new voice filled the command center, processed through translation software but still carrying a tone of arrogance. Human settlement designated New Haven. You are in violation of council decree. You have 1 hour to begin evacuation procedures. Failure to comply will result in forcible removal. Silence followed the declaration. Doyon looked at Hana, who waited for his decision. This was the moment. The council was testing them, seeing if humans would actually fight or if the brave words from the tribunal had been empty posturing. Tajin, Doyon said clearly, refuse their demands. Sir, they have the firepower to level this colony. I know, but our ships are coming. You just need to hold out for 3 hours. Can you do that? A pause. Then Tajin's voice came back, steadier now. Yes, sir. We'll give them hell. The communication switched back to the council ships. This time it was Tajin speaking. This is Commander Tajin of New Haven Colony. We are a legally established settlement on unclaimed territory. We recognize no council authority to order our evacuation. If you attack civilians, you will be the ones in violation of galactic law. The council response was immediate. You have chosen poorly. Prepare for consequences. The first shots came 10 minutes later. The council frigates opened fire on the colony's shield generators, trying to bring down the defensive barrier so they could target buildings directly. The shields held, but everyone knew it was only a matter of time. Tajin organized the defense brilliantly. He had spent the past 19 days preparing for exactly this scenario. Militia members activated hidden weapons caches scattered throughout the colony. Anti-ship missiles, purchased quietly through black market channels, launched from concealed positions in the forest surrounding the settlement. The first missile caught a council frigate by surprise, tearing through its shields and ripping into the hull. The ship spun away, trailing atmosphere and debris. The remaining 5 vessels pulled back, reassessing their opponent. They didn't expect us to shoot back, Hana observed with satisfaction. Doyen watched the tactical display update in real time. They thought we'd be easy prey. That's their first mistake. The council ships regrouped and came in more carefully, focusing fire on known militia positions. Buildings exploded. Trees burst into flames. But the humans kept fighting, moving from position to position, never staying in one place long enough to become an easy target. Tajin kept up a running commentary, his voice growing hoarse. We're taking casualties, but we're making them pay for every meter. Colony shields are down to 40%. We've destroyed 1 frigate and damaged 2 others, but we're running low on missiles. Hold on, Hana said. 20 minutes and my ships will be in firing range. Those 20 minutes felt like hours. Doyen watched helplessly as the tactical display showed New Haven's defenses slowly crumbling. The shields dropped to 20%, then 10%. Buildings collapsed. The casualty count climbed, but the humans didn't break. They fell back to secondary positions, then tertiary ones. They kept fighting with whatever weapons they had left. And when the council ships moved in for what they thought would be the final assault, they flew directly into a trap. Tajin had rigged the main power station to explode. When 4 of the remaining frigates passed over it, the entire facility detonated with the force of a small nuclear weapon. 2 council ships disintegrated instantly. The other 2 were thrown off course, systems failing. Now, Hana barked into her communication system. All ships weapons free. Take them down! 3 Earth vessels dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the system. They were smaller than the council frigates, but faster and more maneuverable. Their weapons, using Dr. Yunji's new designs, hit with devastating accuracy. The battle lasted less than 5 minutes. The 2 damaged council frigates tried to retreat but were cut off and destroyed. The last frigate, seeing its entire force eliminated, attempted to flee, but was disabled before it could engage its drive. Hana's voice was calm and professional. Tajin, this is Admiral Hana. The threat is neutralized. What's your status? Colony shields are gone. We've lost 38 people with another 60 wounded. Half the settlement is in ruins, but we're still here. Tajin's voice carried exhaustion and pride in equal measure. We held them. Yes, you did. Good work, Commander. Relief ships are on the way. Doyen let out a breath he didn't know he'd been holding. The first test was passed. Humanity had fought and won, but he knew this was just the beginning. Over the next week, similar incidents occurred across human space. Council ships appeared at colonies, demanding evacuations. Each time, the humans refused. Each time, fighting broke out. And each time, Earth's hidden fleet arrived to drive the attackers away. The pattern became clear. The Council was using mercenary forces rather than their own military vessels. They were testing human resolve while maintaining deniability. Doyen saw the strategy clearly. They wanted to bleed Earth's resources and morale without committing to full-scale war. But something else was happening too. News of human resistance was spreading across the galaxy. Other junior species were watching with great interest. On the 23rd day, Doyen received an encrypted message requesting a secret meeting. The sender was Ambassador Suman of the Karathi, a species that had been part of the Council for 200 years, but had never advanced beyond junior member status. Doyen met her on a neutral station in unclaimed space. Hana insisted on coming along, suspicious of possible traps. But when Suman arrived, she came alone and unarmed. The Karathi looked similar to Earth's deer, if deer had walked upright and possessed hands capable of fine manipulation. Suman's large eyes held intelligence and something that looked like hope. "Envoy Doyen," she said through her translator. "Thank you for meeting with me. I am taking a great risk." "As am I," Doyen replied. "What do you want?" "To offer assistance. The Karathi have watched your defiance with great interest. For 2 centuries we have endured the same treatment you experienced. Restricted territory, unfair regulations, dismissal of our concerns. We learned to accept it because we saw no alternative. And now we see humans fighting back successfully. You destroyed Council forces at New Haven and 3 other colonies. You have survived longer than anyone expected. It makes us wonder if the Council's power is not as absolute as we believed." Doyen studied her carefully. "What kind of assistance are you offering?" Suman pulled out a data device. "Intelligence. The Council is gathering a fleet at Proxima Centauri. Not mercenaries this time. Real military forces from multiple member species. They plan to blockade Earth and force your surrender through starvation rather than direct assault." Hana leaned forward. "How many ships?" "Current count is 300 and growing. They will move in approximately 1 week." The number hit like a physical blow. 300 ships. Even with Earth's hidden fleet and new technology, those were terrible odds. "Why are you telling us this?" Doyen asked. "Because the Karathi Council has been debating for days what to do. Half want to join you. The other half fear Council retaliation. I am hoping that if you survive the coming battle, it will tip the scales." Suman's large eyes focused on him intently. "You need allies, Envoy Doyen. And there are species throughout the galaxy who are tired of bowing to the Council. But they need to see that resistance is possible." "We're going to be outnumbered 10 to 1, Hana said bluntly. "Maybe worse." "Yes," Suman agreed. "But you have advantages they do not expect. Your ships are faster and your weapons more powerful. You have the motivation of defending your home, and most importantly, you are human. The Council has spent decades dismissing your species as primitive and impulsive. They have underestimated you at every turn." She stood to leave. "I must return before my absence is noticed. But know this, Envoy, you are not alone. Win this battle and you will have allies. Lose and the chance for change dies with you." After Suman left, Hana turned to Doyen. "Do you believe her?" "About the fleet?" "Yes, about the Karathi joining us." Doyen shrugged. "That depends on whether we can survive what's coming." They returned to Earth immediately. Director Minho called an emergency meeting of all senior staff. Dr. Yunji was already there, along with General Borum and a dozen other key figures. 300 ships, Borum said flatly when she heard the intelligence. "That's more than we planned for." "Can we evacuate Earth?" Someone asked. "Where would we go?" Yunji replied. "Every colony world is also at risk." The Council fleet arrived at the edge of the Sol system like a wall of metal and light. 317 warships, representing 12 different species. Each one more than a match for anything humanity had built before the rebellion. They moved in perfect formation, a demonstration of overwhelming power designed to break the will of any defender. On Earth, billions watched the displays with fear and hope warring in their hearts. In the command center deep beneath Geneva, Doyen stood surrounded by tactical screens showing every ship, every weapon, every last desperate gambit humanity had prepared. Admiral Hana commanded the defense fleet from her flagship, the Defiant. It was one of the larger vessels in Earth's arsenal, bristling with Dr. Yunji's new weapons and carrying the hopes of an entire species. Around her, 40 other ships waited in positions carefully calculated to maximize their effectiveness. The Council fleet's communication came on all frequencies, impossible to ignore. High Arbiter Velrax's voice, cold and certain, filled the silence. "Humans of Earth, you see before you the combined might of the Galactic Council. Your rebellion ends today. You have 1 hour to surrender unconditionally. Your envoy Doyen must present himself for arrest. Your colonies must be evacuated. Your military vessels must power down their weapons. If you comply, Earth will be spared. If you resist, we will demonstrate the price of defiance." Director Minho looked at Doyen. "Do we respond?" "We respond," Doyen said. He activated his own communication channel, broadcasting on the same frequencies. "High Arbiter Velrax, this is Envoy Doyen. You have brought your fleet to intimidate us into submission, but you have made a critical error. You still do not understand humans?" "We understand you perfectly," Velrax replied. "You are a primitive species that found technology beyond your ability to use wisely. You are children playing with adult weapons, and now you will learn what happens when children challenge their betters. If we are children, then you are the tyrant who thought children could never grow strong enough to defend themselves. You're about to learn differently. Doyen paused. This is Earth's final statement to the Galactic Council. We will not surrender. We will not bow. And we will not be moved from our home. If you want Earth, you'll have to take it, and the cost will be higher than you've calculated. The hour expired. The Council fleet advanced. Admiral Hana watched them come, her hand steady on her command console. All ships' weapons hold. Let them enter the asteroid belt. Satellites, prepare to activate on my mark. The Council formation moved confidently into the belt, their sensors easily tracking the hidden human ships. They thought they had every advantage. Superior numbers, superior firepower, centuries of combat experience. The human defenders were outgunned and outnumbered. This would be a short battle. Then Project Bastion activated. Hundreds of satellites hidden among the asteroids and disguised as debris suddenly came online. Each one carried multiple weapon systems designed by Dr. Yunji's team. They fired simultaneously, creating a web of energy beams and kinetic projectiles that cut through the Council formation like razors through cloth. 20 ships died in the first 10 seconds. Their shields, calibrated for standard galactic weapons, couldn't handle the intensity of the new human technology. Holes were punched through hulls. Power systems overloaded. Crews died before they understood what was happening. The Council fleet scattered, breaking formation to avoid the satellite fire. But that was exactly what Hana wanted. Now they were disorganized, confused, vulnerable. All ships execute pattern Delta, she commanded. Hit them while they're divided. The human fleet struck like a pack of wolves. Ships using Dr. Yunji's advanced drive system appeared behind enemy vessels, fired devastating volleys, then vanished back into faster-than-light space before return fire could be coordinated. It was a tactic no one in the galaxy used because no one else had the technology to make it work. The battle turned into chaos. Council ships tried to regroup but kept taking fire from unexpected angles. The satellites continued their programmed assault, forcing the larger fleet to keep moving, preventing them from establishing defensive positions. High Arbiter Velrax's voice cut through the communication channels. All ships focus fire on the satellites. Destroy their defensive network. The Council fleet began targeting the satellites, destroying them one by one, but each satellite that died had achieved its purpose. The fleet was scattered, damaged, and demoralized. Already 50 ships were destroyed or disabled. The humans had lost only 3. Doyen watched the tactical display with grim satisfaction. Phase 2. Deploy the drones. From hidden positions throughout the asteroid belt, thousands of small unmanned craft launched. They were too small to carry humans, barely large enough for weapons and guidance systems, but they were fast, numerous, and expendable. The drones swarmed the Council fleet like angry insects. Each one carried explosives designed to penetrate shields and detonate inside enemy vessels. The Council ships tried to shoot them down, but there were too many. Explosions bloomed throughout the enemy formation. This is impossible, someone muttered in the command center. We're actually winning. We're surviving, Doyen corrected. That's not the same thing. He could see the Council fleet's response beginning to organize. They were adapting to human tactics, starting to coordinate their defense. The question is whether we can make them quit before they overwhelm us through sheer numbers. The battle raged for 6 hours. Human ships danced between asteroids, appearing and disappearing, striking hard and retreating before the enemy could respond effectively. The satellite network was destroyed, but it had done its job. The drone swarms were depleted, but they'd disabled dozens more Council vessels. Casualties mounted on both sides. Earth lost 12 ships, nearly a third of its fleet, but the Council fleet had lost over 100 vessels, with twice that number damaged. The price of attacking Earth was proving higher than anyone had anticipated. Then something unexpected happened. 3 Council ships broke formation and retreated to the edge of the system. They were Karathi vessels.
As they fled, Ambassador Suman's voice came across all channels. The Karathi withdraw from this unjust battle.
We will no longer fight against those who seek only the freedom we ourselves desire. Earth has proven its right to stand independent. The announcement sent shockwaves through both fleets. For a moment, firing stopped as everyone processed what had just occurred. A Council member species had openly defected in the middle of battle. High Arbiter Velrax's voice shook with rage. Traitors. The Karathi will pay for this betrayal. But the damage was done. Other ships began hesitating. Doubt spread through the Council fleet like poison. If the Karathi could leave, could others? Was this war worth dying for? Admiral Hanna seized the moment. All ships, full assault. Show them we're not beaten yet. The human fleet launched a coordinated strike on Velrax's flagship. It was a massive dreadnought, larger than any human vessel, but it was also isolated now that the formation had broken apart. Hanna's ships hit it from multiple angles, overwhelming its shields through sheer volume of fire. The flagship's defenses failed. Weapons offline, hull breached, the pride of the Council fleet drifted helpless in space. Velrax, Doyen transmitted directly. Your flagship is disabled. Your fleet is broken. You've lost a third of your ships and gained nothing. Order the retreat before more die for your pride. Silence answered him. Then another voice came across the communication channels. It was Counselor Thessa, the mammalian being who had shown sympathy during the tribunal. High Arbiter Velrax is incapacitated. I am assuming command of Council forces. All ships, cease fire and withdraw to Rally Point Gamma. This battle is over. Some ships obeyed immediately. Others hesitated but eventually followed. The Council fleet began its retreat, leaving behind debris and disabled vessels that would take days to recover. As the enemy withdrew, exhausted cheers echoed through human ships and across Earth. They had done it. Against impossible odds, they had driven back the Council's fleet, but Doyen felt no urge to celebrate. This was just the beginning. The war wasn't over. It had barely started. Over the next week, the galaxy transformed. News of Earth's victory spread faster than light itself. The Council had been defeated. A junior member species had stood its ground and won. The implications were staggering. 4 more species withdrew from the Council, citing Earth's example as inspiration. Dozens of others demanded reforms and equal treatment. The power structure that had governed the galaxy for millennia was cracking. Emergency council sessions were called. Heated debates raged among senior members. Some wanted to assemble an even larger fleet and crush Earth completely. Others argued for negotiation and reform. The unity that had made the Council powerful was fracturing. Ambassador Suman arrived on Earth 3 days after the battle. With her came representatives from 6 other species, all seeking to form a new alliance based on equality rather than hierarchy. Doyen met with them in Geneva. The negotiations were complex and difficult. Each species had different needs and concerns, but they shared one thing in common: a desire for a galaxy where power didn't automatically mean oppression. We're proposing a new organization, Doyen explained. Not a council where some members are more equal than others, but a true alliance of independent species.